Hey folks, I'm Troy and you're watching TroyTube. As we add more blanks and more products to our website, we're going to try to release more and more videos that are really kind of simple tutorials on how to use the blanks, and if we can, how to use them with the TroyTube Designer beta software that we released a couple weeks ago. So today we're going to use a 16 by 16 pillowcase cover for a throw pillow, and we're going to sublimate a design onto this. I'll show you how easy it is to do with the designer, and I think we're going to really enjoy this. So stick around, we'll be right back. We'll get started here by going into the TroyTube Designer beta software. You can get to this by going to design.troytube.net and logging in with your same username and password as troytube.net, your TroyTube mobile app, or bulkvinyl.com. It's all the same username and password. And we don't really have a template for this pillowcase we're working with because it's 16 inches and we can't print 16. There might be some folks out there with larger printers, but in our case, we're working with a 13 by 19 max print size. So I'm going to use the 13 by 19 blank canvas, and for this one I'm going to use the 13 by 19 portrait grid layout. And with this grid layout we're able to see really visually about how large we're making our item. And one of the things I want to show you is a couple new things that we've added to the designer. And so if I go to the image button over here on the left and then I click on categories, you'll see that we've added distressed and background patterns. So the distressed image overlays a white distressed pattern over your image to make it look distressed. So I'll show you that real quick. I'll just drop this little shape of a butterfly on here. This is one of our crop templates, but I think you'll get the idea. And so if I go to the distressed patterns and I click on this, we can adjust the size and density of that to make it look more or less distressed. If I wanted, I can duplicate this and just kind of butt them up against each other, and you really can't tell too much that they're two separate distressed images when you do that. But nice little distressed image, and we'll be adding more of those distressed images in there as well. And so if I go to the pattern backgrounds, you'll see quite a few pattern backgrounds. And there's a couple of them like the paws and the flowers here, and there'll be more as we add more patterns. That the difference is one of them has a white background and one of them is transparent. And if you hover over the little eye, it'll tell you which one's transparent. And so you can do some different effects with this. For example, if I insert this background and then I insert the dog paws that's transparent, I can overlay that and get some different effects with it and create my own pattern backgrounds. So we'll be adding more of those that'll make things a little bit more fun for you. And in this case, we're going to add this flower background, the bright flowers, and I'm going to stretch this out and make it kind of large so that the flowers are nice and big. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to crop this into the shape of a heart. And normally, most shapes are in here, but I just realized we only have this heart with an outline and this one with a star on it. So I'm going to have to add the shape in here, so we'll get that taken care of. But I do have one down here in the images under my blanks crop templates. And so if I scroll down, a lot of these you can't see what they are because they're too large for the little thumbnail, but if you hover over them, it gives you the name as well as shows you visually what the shape is. So for example, there's the megaphone bag tag, and here's the heart. So I'm going to click that and insert it, and I'm going to stretch it out here. And if I look up in the top corner of anything that I'm clicked on, you'll see a little measurement tool here. I don't go by this too much because there's some scaling issues in some of these, but it's pretty close. But I really rely more on the grid than the size measurement on that little object there. And next we want to we're going to cut this flower pattern out into the shape of a heart. So we don't want to print and waste ink on all this additional stuff we don't need. And so with that, sometimes you can't click on an object that's underneath. If the bounding box is too large, maybe it covers the entire thing. So if that happens, you can come over to layers and you can click whichever layer that you want to select it. And then I'm going to click the mask button, and I'm going to select the heart to be used as the mask layer. And you'll see that it will clip and cut out this pattern into the shape of a heart. Now this is an example of why you can't rely on the size issue, because since we've clipped this, we've basically hidden the rest of the pattern, but the actual source image bounding box is still the original size, and there's no way to change that because that image is really there. We've just hidden it. And so this says it's 24 by 18, and obviously it's only about a 12-inch or so image size. So you don't want to go by this in most cases. So just be careful about going to that with this measurement that's up here. Next, we're going to insert some text, and I've already added a font here called Leckerli. Leckerli 1, I think is how you say it. I don't know. It's kind of an odd name. But if you want to add more fonts, if you click here, you can go, any of the fonts that are up here at the top are already in your profile, and then you can scroll down and look for or search any font names for Google Fonts. And one of the tips that you have is that you can go out and literally Google font that's similar to, and give it a regular name. So you could say Google font similar to college or something, and then it'll come back and tell you that graduate is similar. So you might want to try that if you're trying to match up similar fonts. In this case, we're going to choose this one here in a moment by clicking here. And you see the text box opens up, but if it didn't, or if it is already on the screen here and I've clicked on it, you can go back and click this edit text button and alter the text that is in there. So we're going to make it say Happy Mother's Day. And I'm going to adjust the line height down a little bit to make it a little bit closer together so that we can make the font a little larger and easier to read. Now, it's larger and easier to read, but the color is not good for this. So we're going to come up here to the fill bucket, and we're going to change that to orange. But you still really can't read it that well because of all those flowers that are mixed in with the pattern and behind it. So we're going to add a stroke to this. It's going to kind of look like an offset, but it's really a stroke. So it's not a true offset, but you're going to get a similar effect from it. So we'll go back to the paint fill bucket again. And one of the key things you need to understand about stroke is you have to adjust the stroke before you select the color. So I'm going to turn the stroke up, and you can see that it adjusts the size of it, but you can't see anything yet. And then I'm going to add the color. So I'm going to add white, and then I can visually see it and adjust it. And as you can see, it just adds a border around the letters and gives it some space between all these shapes and makes it a lot easier to read. Now, before we download and print it, I'm not worried about mirroring my flowers. Those just aren't important to me. They're not going to matter if they're mirrored or not to me. You could do it if you want. But I'm going to select the font layer and then come up here to the Transforms button, and I'm going to flip X. And one of the things you want to check for is just make sure it's still centered, because sometimes it'll shift a little bit or something, or maybe your perspective is off a little, and then when you flip it, it's not quite centered as well as it was before. And so now we're going to download the image, and we want to leave this off. If we have this turned on when you download it, you're going to get the grid background or whatever template you're working on. So in most cases, you leave this turned off unless you're working with one of the print layouts to make multiple items, like if you're making several coasters at one time. And now we can click download. It will take just a couple of seconds and download your transparent PNG file. Next, we're going to open up our Faststone image viewer. And if you're not familiar with the Faststone image viewer, go over to my channel and go to the Sublimation and Printing playlist and watch the video that says, "Is this the best image viewer with print controls for Windows?" Because I think it is. This is a very good, very simple, easy to use print utility, viewing and print utility. So when I want to print this image, I right click on it and I click print, or I can hit Control P, and I get this really super easy dialog box to work with. So I have an easy drop down to select my printer. I have easy access to the print setup and properties dialog box. And we're going to change this to Super B 13 by 19. We're going to set it for presentation paper matte. We're going to set it for high quality. And then you want to make sure that mirror image is turned off, since we've already mirrored our image. And I should point out, if I wanted to, I could select multiple images and print more than one at one time if I wanted to do that on separate pieces of paper. And you can leave all of these settings set just like I have them on the screen. 0 margins, original size with this box checked. I'm printing in portrait mode. Units are inches, it's centered, and the gamma correction, you can leave that alone at 1. And so now we'll print this and then move back over to the other camera and apply it to our pillowcase. Okay, I've already placed a piece of butcher paper inside the pillowcase, as you can see here. That will keep the ink from going through it. You can probably see the little dark outline. These are fairly thin, so you probably want to put these on white pillow inserts. If you try to put something colored in, it's probably going to show through. But I went ahead and pressed this once to get the moisture out and just get the wrinkles out of it overall. And as you can see, I've kind of just trimmed my heart shape down, just to give it a border and make it a little bit easier for me to place it and center it on the pillow rather than having all the extra paper out here on it. So we'll place this on here, and I'll put a couple pieces of tape on it just to hold it in place. And now we're ready to press, and I'm going to press this at 385 for about 45 seconds. All right, we want to make sure we get this on the platen without any wrinkles or anything under it, and it's nice and smooth. And this pillowcase is just a little bit larger than my platen, so it's going to let me get the zipper off the edge of it without having to worry about that messing with anything or melting the zipper, any of that good stuff. And then we'll put a piece of butcher paper over it. And we'll press for 45 seconds. And there is our finished product. Look how bright and shiny that is. That is really pretty flawless. 385 for 45 seconds. Nice, bright, vivid colors. Nice press, nice finished product. Now, this shows a little bit of an indentation from the paper around the edges. Don't worry about that. It'll come out when you wash it or iron it. Just wash it, tumble dry, low heat. You can put it back into the press and press it with just a piece of butcher paper over it or something to get those out if you want. But that's how easy it is using the TroyTube Designer Beta and using it to create your sublimation prints, using the Faststone viewer to print your final image. It's really, really easy to do. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below the video.